A Somali police officer shoots a woman dead next to his police cruiser in an alleyway in Minneapolis. I have the one question that the media should be asking, but isn't, coming up next on this episode of Trigger Warning Radio. What's up, all you deplorable monsters? Welcome to another episode of Trigger Warning Radio. Now, last night, ladies and gentlemen, there was a very tragic incident in the city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Last night, a woman named Justine Damond, an immigrant from Sydney, heard a noise in the alleyway in the back of her house. So naturally, it's the middle of the night, she's suspicious about what's going on. She calls the police to report her fears and report the incident. So the police show up, the police go to the alley in their cruiser and investigate. Justine comes out to meet the police officers about 100 yards away from her house, if that. And Justine is dressed in her pajamas. She's talking to the police officer that's driving the cruiser, and then all of a sudden, the police officer in the passenger seat draws his gun, fires through the driver's side door, and kills Justine Damond. Why? We don't know. We have absolutely no idea why. The body cams that the police officers were wearing were turned off. The dash cam in the police cruiser did not pick up anything. At least video. We know it didn't pick up video. We have absolutely no idea if it picked up any audio at this time, but I have a feeling that it didn't pick up any audio, of course. Now, this whole thing is a very suspicious incident. Apparently, according to all accounts, Justine was not being threatening. She was not armed. She was in her pajamas, so she had no place to keep a gun. And according to a family friend, she wouldn't have been armed anyway because Justine Damond was a gun control advocate. Being from Australia, she apparently talked all the time about how great Australia was because nobody has a gun in Australia. So the idea that the officer felt threatened by Justine Damond is looking a little bit ridiculous on its face, and that adds to the cloud of suspicion surrounding this whole incident. Now, the police officer who shot Justine Damond has been identified as 31-year-old Mohammed Noor. Now, Mohammed Noor is a Somali police officer. In fact, he was hailed as the first Somali police officer to patrol the 5th Precinct in Minneapolis by a local newsletter. And you won't see this reported anywhere in the national news media. The only place that this is being reported is local news. The Star Tribune, the local Minneapolis newspaper, has reported that Mohammed Noor is a Somali police officer. And Bruno Strazek, one of the editors over at SpartaReport.com, when he broke the story, he identified the police officer, Mohammed Noor, as a Somali police officer. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, especially if you're a liberal, well, why are you bringing up the fact that this cop is Somali? That's racist. You're being racist. It's racist to talk about where this guy is from. That's just so racist of you. Well, there's a reason why this needs to be brought up, and it's a pretty significant reason. Now, Somalia, as you may or may not know, is one of the 7 countries that was identified by the Obama administration as being one of the most dangerous places in the world and a hotbed for international terrorism. Somalia is also listed on Donald Trump's revised travel ban. So, what we need to do is we need to ask questions about Mr. Noor's background, given where he's from. We need to be asking questions such as, who has he associated with in the years since coming to America, or has he gone back to Somalia recently, or has he gone to anywhere recently that has been a hotbed of terrorist activity? Has he visited the Middle East recently? We need to look at his Facebook postings, his social media postings. Has he expressed anything that could be seen as having jihadi sympathies or sympathies with ISIS? Who does he associate with? These are things that we need to find out about this person. And the reason why we need to find these out about him is because we need to ensure that this incident, this tragic killing of this innocent woman, was not linked to any sort of terrorism. It's not racist to want to question the background of somebody who hails from what is essentially a failed state run by warlords and terrorists. That's not racist at all to ask that sort of question. It's something that needs to be asked, and you are not going to see the news media ask this at all. They won't even identify him as being Somali, except in rare instances that I've already pointed out. So you can be damn sure they are not going to look into any part of his background at all. We need to figure out, number one, what the hell happened. Because from what it sounds like Mr. Noor just decided to grab his gun and shoot an innocent woman in a back alley, seemingly thinking that he might be safe from any sort of prosecution. But another reason why we need to find out about Mr. Noor's background is because we have seen in recent years all over the world a rise in lone wolf. Well, I say lone wolf, it often turns out to be, one person carrying out the attack, but he was backed by a whole bunch of other people. But we have seen a rise in single people committing acts of terror, both in this country and abroad over in Europe. It's not out of the realm of possibility to think that a police officer who has jihadist sympathies, or potentially has jihadist sympathies, might take it upon themselves to commit an act of terror such as this. Just imagine if this turns out to be terrorism, how jarring that will be to the collective psyche of all Americans. Now, Americans, rightfully so, we have a large amount of respect for our police officers in most cases, and we always hope that our police officers come home safely. But if this turns out to have anything to do with terrorism, not saying that it does, but if it turns out that this has something to do with terrorism, how is that going to affect how Americans view police officers? It's a fair question to ask in this case, ladies and gentlemen, because if a police officer, if somebody's sworn to uphold and defend the law of the United States of America and protect its citizens from those who would defy the law, if someone like that can be turned into a jihadist, into a terrorist, that right there would have a profound impact on how Americans view the police in this country. And I suspect that's why the news media won't cover this. I suspect that's why we won't see the news media digging very much into Mr. Noor's background. And I'll be quite honest, I'm actually shocked that we know the police officer's name. I would have thought that they would have buried that information by now. So how does this investigation, how does this story play out? Well, given the fact that Minneapolis is a very, very liberal part of Minnesota, what I suspect is going to happen is we are going to have a standard investigation where it's impossible to determine exactly what happened. It's the cop's word against, any other witnesses that might be in the area. I suspect we may see this swept under the rug. I would be shocked if Mr. Noor keeps his job. I would be very shocked with that. I suspect that he's probably going to leave the force, maybe go to a different city, but I suspect this will probably end with him leaving the force. I don't think he'll be prosecuted, though. I really think that the mayor of Minneapolis and the political establishment in that area is going to want to sweep this under the rug. So I think we're going to see a very speedy investigation. I don't think we're going to see any court case or anything like that. And I highly suspect that Justine's family will not get the answers and the closure that they so deserve. And the reason for that is because people won't want to ask the hard questions and find out exactly why this happened. I think it's just going to be chalked up as a tragic event that could have been avoided. And this will all blow over, and by next year, everybody will have forgotten the name of Justine Damond and the name of Mohammed Noor. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope we actually do get a thorough investigation. I hope we do find out exactly what's going on, and I do hope that this has absolutely nothing to do with terrorism. I highly doubt, though, that we will get any of that. I highly doubt that we will know any answers in this case, and that is probably the biggest tragedy of all, that Justine Damond's family will not get the closure that they deserve. I'll go ahead and keep an eye on this story for you, ladies and gentlemen, and see what develops. If anything interesting comes out of this, I will definitely let you know. Also, definitely follow Sparta Report and pay attention to Bruno Strazek's posts on this matter. I know he's more than likely going to want to pursue this wherever it leads and get you folks the truth. Once again, I've linked the Sparta Report article down below in the comments section. I've also linked the reporting from the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. Feel free to check those out. And thank you for listening to yet another episode of Trigger Warning Radio. Leave a like and don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you all in the next episode.